Hello, fellow stars. Welcome or welcome back. Today's Podfic is a one-shot entitled Stars in the Nighttime Sky by quirky_chibi_rose85 on AO3. The summary is as follows. A quirk mishap results in Toga and Ochako experiencing life in each other's shoes. Also, the original work includes some lovely fan art that you should definitely check out if or when you get a chance. Link in the description. Let's dive right in. Where are you taking me, Himi-chan? Toga kept a light grip on Ochako's hand as the two teenagers ran away from UA. You'll see, just come on. Ochako was grinning as she raced along her secret girlfriend's side. Toga was wearing her usual schoolgirl attire, while she had thrown on a random shirt and a pair of jeans. Her sneakers slapped against the concrete. Toga made sure to keep holding Ochako's hand. She was so happy to finally see her girlfriend after weeks of the two not being able to spend any time together. No one was around to stop the two girls. The streets were quiet, and for once it seemed that all of the villains were avoiding any sort of trouble. The night was perfect for a romantic date for the two, but Toga couldn't resist stopping and turning to steal a kiss from Ochako, who bumped into her when she stopped suddenly. The blonde wrapped her arms around her girlfriend and kept peppering her face with kisses. Himi-chan, stop! Stop! But I missed you, Toga cried while kissing her nose and cheeks. One more light kiss had Ochako floating in the air with Toga, who giggled again. Ochako, we're not on the ground anymore. Turn your quirk off. Ochako blushed while shaking her head. I can't. You know I only do this when I'm embarrassed. Toga kissed her cheek again. Come on, Ochako. Concentrate. It's just us. Lean hands held onto Ochako's as she closed her eyes so she could get them to stop floating. Slowly but surely, the two girls drifted back down to the ground. Ochako opened one eye and then the other as Toga let go of her hand so she could twirl around her. See? You're amazing. Ochako sighed quietly while she watched Toga let off some excess energy. Are you going to tell me why you came all the way to UA to see me? You know we can't get caught. Toga stopped moving and smiled at Ochako. You're worth the risk. Himiko! The blonde giggled again. Okay, we're far enough from your school. Let's go sit down and watch the stars, okay? This time, Ochako grabbed Toga's hand as the two approached the park. The two girls went to the swing set and sat down, never once letting go of their hands. Toga started swinging gently while Ochako looked up at the skies. For once, there were no clouds, and a few stars were actually visible. She started to swing as well. Hey, Ochako. The only sounds were their swings creaking softly. Toga squeezed her hand once as if she needed the strength, which Ochako was glad to give. She returned the gesture as Toga murmured, Do you think, maybe one day, we'll be able to be together without sneaking around? The playground was silent around them, and neither girl noticed a little boy sitting on top the monkey bars. He got distracted by the two pretty girls and followed them into the park. He didn't want to take a chance and be seen, so he quickly climbed up the monkey bars and sat down, but neither teenager paid him any mind. They had gone straight to the swings. But the child's attention peaked when he heard the blonde one's question. He hated how sad she sounded and thought about how he could help them. He kept watch of the two while Ochako kept swinging back and forth. She squeezed her girlfriend's hand again while thinking about her answer carefully. I promised I wouldn't lie to her. She deserves an honest answer. I hope so, but if the day never comes, I'll do what I can to support you. You already know how much I love you, especially since you're the cutest girl in the whole world. She gazed over at her girlfriend, who was quickly turning red. Ochako! She chuckled. It's the truth. Now let's see who can go higher. Toga let go of Ochako's hand so she could grip the chains. Prepare to lose. Ochako's smile got bigger. Not a chance. As the two girls began to swing higher and higher, they missed seeing the little boy run off and straight into the arms of his frantic mother, who hugged him tight. Where did you go, Akihito? I took my eyes off of you for just a second and you were gone. I'm okay, Mama. The little boy turned his head to stare at the two teenagers who were laughing and clearly enjoying themselves. His black eyes shifted to an unnatural pink color as wisps of light left them and traveled to the teens. The tiny bit of light latched onto their pinkies before turning into little red bows that tied themselves around each finger before disappearing. Satisfied with his task, he hugged his mother again. "Are we going to pick up Daddy now?" "Yes, and I'm letting him know that you wandered off." "But, Mommy—" "No buts. Something could have happened to you." Akihito pouted while his mother trudged to the train station with him. He looked back one more time at the two teenagers as a lone shooting star streaked across the sky. "I really hope this helps them. Nobody should be that sad." After their impromptu night in the park, Ochako stood by the gates to UA. She hated to see Toga leave, but they couldn't afford to get caught together. "Are you going to be okay?" The hero in training reached out to gently brush a thumb across Toga's cheek. The other girl leaned into the tender touch. "Yeah, I'm a master at blending in with my surroundings, remember?" To drive her point home, Toga quickly shifted into another form. Instead of her normal appearance, she now appeared as an adult. Her signature blonde hair was pulled up into a bun while she wore a chic business suit. She smiled cheekily. "Everyone will think I'm an office lady that got off work late." Ochako stopped touching her girlfriend and turned around so she could punch in her code to get back inside the gates. After she hit the last button, the gate opened, but Toga grabbed her arm, making Ochako look up right as she took the chance to give a parting kiss. It was filled with kindness and adoration, and Ochako hated the moment when she felt Toga pull away from her. Sad brown eyes watched as Toga blew her a kiss. "Behave for me. I'll see you soon, okay?" "That's supposed to be my line." That comment got Toga to laugh as she started walking away. "Well, if that's the case, I'll be sure to misbehave so I can see you sooner." The sound of her heels clicking on the pavement had Ochako turning away so she could go back inside and sneak up to her dorm. The gates shut behind her, but she couldn't resist turning around to look at her girlfriend again. Toga must have had the same idea because she stopped walking and turned to stare at Ochako as well. Ochako waved at Toga before running off. Tears came to her eyes as she ran through the front door of Heights Alliance and up to her room. She only stopped running once she was safely inside her dorm room. She shut the door and locked it for good measure and went straight to her bed, where she laid down and finally gave herself the chance to cry. "It's not fair. Why do we have to sneak around like this?" She hugged a pillow close as she continued to cry. They hadn't counted on falling in love with one another, but life could be cruel like that. She knew it was going to be hard being with Toga, but she hadn't anticipated their relationship being tested like this. They couldn't go out like normal people or even act like they were a couple. Instead, they had to keep up the pretense of hating one another when, really, they were just two girls trying to navigate the world. Ochako continued to cry until she fell into an exhausted sleep. Around her finger, however, the small little ribbon began to glow brightly before disappearing entirely. She never felt a thing, but come the next morning, she would definitely know something was wrong. Some days, Toga really loved being able to blend in with people, but then there were other times, like tonight, where she was stuck on a crowded train surrounded by too many people when all she wanted was to go back to one specific person. For every elbow that rammed into her side or foot stepping on her shoes, she grit her teeth while glaring at the few people who wisely chose to keep their distance. Another ill-timed appendage slammed into her side, causing her to hiss and reach into her pocket. Her fingers brushed against one of her knives as the teenager gulped and stammered, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." He tried backing away, but there was nowhere to go. Beside him, a woman with silver hair held on to her only child while others started to turn their attention to the brewing conflict. "If you're really sorry, then stay away from me." The little boy looked back and forth between the two before mustering up his courage and shouting from his mother's grasp, "You should be nicer to people. He said it was an accident." Toga narrowed her eyes as she let go of her blade. She studied the child carefully before a teasing smile flit across her face. "You're cute, you know that?" She reached over to pinch his cheeks, but he leaned back against his mother, who held on to him tighter. "Don't touch my child." Toga's hand hovered in the air momentarily before she dropped it. Her smile never left her face as the train lurched to a stop. The announcer's voice blared overhead. "First stop, please exit safely and have a good evening." The doors opened and some people filed out quickly, especially the teenager, who ran off, but the mother and child took their time leaving. The little boy kept a tight grip on his mother's hand, but he did turn around to face Toga once more. "Very soon you'll learn a valuable lesson. Akihito!" The mother dragged him off the train, but Toga came close to the window and stuck her tongue out at the child. She watched them until they were no longer in sight. Afterwards, she looked around and noticed the train was fairly empty now. Sighing with relief, she sat down in one of the empty seats while her girlfriend's words bounced around in her head. "I'll do what I can to support you. You're the cutest girl in the whole world." The blonde wrapped her arms around herself as the train started to move again. "Why does this have to be so hard?" She leaned forward while fighting back tears. "I just want the chance to be with her without sneaking around or hiding all the time. Is that too much to ask?" As Toga started to drown in her sadness, she never noticed the little red string around her pinky glowing brightly. She would never guess that the little boy she encountered would be the cause of all of her troubles within the next few days. The morning was beautiful, and rays of sunlight peeked through Ochako's curtains, but she woke up feeling terrible. Her head hurt and her body ached. She didn't feel like getting out of her bed or even going downstairs, but today was another boring school day. Her sleepy brown eyes were half open as she sat up in her bed and stretched. "I hate school so much. Why do I have to go?" she grumbled. She paused mid-stretch as her words caught up to her. "Wait a second. I normally like school. Did I have a bad dream?" She swung her legs out and placed her feet down onto the floor to get out of her bed. She went to her curtains and peered outside, but instead of the morning light making her smile, she just frowned. She huffed angrily as she closed the curtains. "I hate mornings." Her bad mood clung to her like a second skin as she went through her normal routine of washing her face, styling her hair, and getting dressed. As she was hefting her book bag onto her shoulders, her thoughts went straight to her girlfriend, which finally brought a smile to her face. "I hope she's having a better day than me." She opened the door to her dorm room and left, not knowing that today was going to be a very interesting day for her. She was practically dragging her feet as she came down the stairs, but as soon as she heard her friends' voices, she perked up. She rounded the last corner and swore her brain and heart must have been malfunctioning when her eyes landed on Izuku. Her heart started beating wildly while her pulse raced. "Izuku!" she cooed happily, dropping her bag and running toward him. Izuku had just enough time to turn his head and attempt to greet Ochako before his arms were full of the excited girl. Her eyes were shining brightly as she hugged him tightly. "Good morning, Deku-kun." Some of her friends stopped what they were doing and stared at the two in confusion. Ida stopped drinking his cup of orange juice, Asui was standing still while holding her plate of food, and Shoto stopped rummaging in the fridge as Izuku awkwardly tried to pull Ochako away from his body. Good morning, Uraraka." "You look so adorable. Did you sleep well?" she purred. Their three friends looked on in confusion as she tried to be discreet in smelling Deku's neck. She failed miserably as a delighted smile came to her face, and she sniffed him again. "Your blood smells really tasty." Izuku went pale as Ida dropped his drink. Asui stumbled to the nearest chair, and Shoto closed the refrigerator before calmly walking over to the two. He pulled Ochako from Izuku and gave his friend a skeptical look. "Are you feeling all right, Uraraka?" The bubbly and sweet girl seemed to snap out of it as her eyes widened. She gazed around at everyone and was terribly embarrassed when she realized more of her classmates had been coming into the common room. All of them remained frozen until Bakugo's loud voice snarls. "The fuck is going on? Cheeks, you finally lost it?" Ochako gulped before turning her eyes to Izuku, who seemed to shrink in on himself as he quickly went to his bag and picked it up. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes as he called out, "I'll see you guys in class, okay?" He quickly walked out of the room, leaving Ochako with everyone else. She had no idea what came over her, but she had a sinking feeling in her stomach as her mouth started to water from the rest of her class's scents. All of them smelled good, but she really wanted a taste of Deku's blood. She slapped her hands against her cheeks and grabbed her bag before shouting, "I'm going to class too!" She ran off as Asui quietly asked, "What did we just see?" In an undisclosed and very well hidden safe house, Toga groggily woke up from a very pleasant dream where she was publicly dating Ochako. In her dream, she had willingly reformed as a way to show the heroes in society that she deserved to have another chance. But really, she had only done it so she could be with her girlfriend. She hadn't had any other choices except for being locked away in Tartarus, which made her blood boil just thinking about it. She yawned before running one hand through her hair, and when she went to get out of her bed, something felt wrong. Her feet felt like they were dangling in the air. She looked around and was puzzled when she realized that she was above her bed, near the ceiling. She craned her neck and let out a soundless scream when she noticed what was happening. She was floating. How is this possible? I've only used Ochako's quirk once." She tried calming down, but it was pointless as she remained up in the air. Wait. Does this mean something is wrong with her too? Her golden eyes were darting all around the room as a queasy feeling started bubbling up in her stomach, traveling up to her throat. She slapped one hand over her mouth as she concentrated hard to release the quirk. She started falling down to the ground, but her thoughts were completely jumbled and she almost missed her bed. Her back hit the mattress as she took deep breaths, the nausea beginning to recede a little bit, but her mind was still stuck on her girlfriend. Shakily, she sat up while rubbing her head. This can't be good. Her forehead felt wet as she sat still. She closed her eyes and brought her wrist up to her mouth. She sniffed the skin and refrained from whining. I can't smell the blood. What the hell? She brought her arm back down and finally got up on weak legs. She went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, biting back a startled gasp. Her reflection was kinder and gentler than normal. She reached out one hand and gently touched the mirror. We switched? But how? How did this happen? Toga kept one hand on the mirror as her body slowly began to function properly again. She no longer felt nauseated or sweating, but her heart still felt like it was racing. Her eyes staring back at her were too nice. She tried smiling at herself and was instantly filled with dread when she noticed her smile wasn't right either. Having seen enough, she stumbled out of the bathroom and went back to her bed. She sat down gingerly while cradling her head. This is really going to complicate things. Over at UA, Ochako was sweating buckets in her first class. Some of her classmates tried talking to her, but she kept quiet in fear of coming across as strange again. She didn't even make an effort to answer any questions unless her teacher called on her. Her odd behavior continued right up until her fourth class. All of the girls were changing their clothes, which had Ochako blushing fiercely as she hurriedly changed into her gym uniform. Why? Why couldn't it have been hero lessons? She kept her head down as she threw on her top. She shoved her change of clothes into her locker and then ran out of the room, causing her friends to look up in confusion. Only Asui was brave enough to say, "Something is wrong with Ochako." Jiro and Toru quietly finished putting on their uniforms as Mina rubbed her chin. What do you mean? She seemed okay this morning. Momo nodded toward Asui before speaking up. This morning, she made Midoriya very uncomfortable. What? But she's too shy and bashful to try anything with Deku. Ribbit. She hugged him and wouldn't let go. She even said his blood smelled tasty. The girls all gasped, but Mina was the only one who squealed in excitement. Momo gave Mina a very stern look. She called him adorable while doing it. No. Toru couldn't keep quiet any longer. Ochako isn't bold like that. She used to blush around him and never opened up about her feelings. Jiro started twirling one earphone jack. Are you guys sure she was acting strange? Asui and Momo pursed their lips. Both of them knew Ochako no longer had an interest in Deku, especially since he had eyes for someone else. But they weren't about to disclose her personal business like that. They just needed their friends to understand how weird the situation had been. Ribbit, Ribbit, I'm just worried about her. You know she's been coming back late at night. We thought it was because of her internship, but her mentor makes her leave well before nightfall. Then what's going on with her? Mina asked, some of the excitement leaving her. Momo walked out of the locker room, followed by Jiro and Toru, as Asui gave Mina one more questioning look. We don't know, but maybe we should keep an eye on her. Sounds like a plan. The remaining girls all filed out, but promptly knocked into one another as they saw Ochako loudly giving compliments to the rest of her class. You're in top form today, Ida-kun. Keep up the hard work, Todoroki-kun. The girl was buzzing around the room and drawing attention to herself, but it didn't seem like her normal behavior. Mina turned to give her friends a shocked look before she ran into the gym and made a beeline for Ochako. Should one of us go after them? Momo, Asui, and Jiro exchanged worried looks before Toru said, I'll do it. I can eavesdrop and then tell you guys what happened. Toru slunk away from the others. Let's hope this doesn't backfire on us. Yes, let's hope. Ochako had been trying her best to avoid going anywhere near Deku, but the urge was strong. She hadn't been lying when she said his blood smelled good. She stopped moving to watch him interact with some of their friends and felt her heart fluttering. At first glance, Deku was nothing to look at, not when her class had cute boys like Todoroki, Bakugo, Kaminari, and Kirishima already, but for some reason Deku was the one who captured her attention the most. She was leaning against one of the walls and watched him chat with Ida and Tokoyami. Her lips curled into a poorly disguised scowl as she watched. What's so special about them? He should be spending time with me. I'm much better company than them. Her comments had been spoken low enough to be ignored by anyone within earshot. However, she wasn't prepared for Mina to come barreling towards her, grabbing her wrist and then dragging her out of sight. What? You'll thank me for this. The two girls ran out of the double doors while everyone else pretended to ignore them. Deku watched them leave and let loose a huge sigh of relief. Behind him, Bakugo kept his sharp gaze on him while Mineta asked the question on everyone's mind. Anyone else notice how weird Uraraka acting? Why is she all over you, Midoriya, when there's clearly better options for her to choose? Every single boy stopped what they were doing to glare at the shortest student in class, but Sero was the one who shot a bunch of tape at him. Ah! Kirishima and Kaminari picked up the bundle and threw the pest high up in the air while Dark Shadow finished the job by attaching him to the ceiling. Midoriya, are you going to be all right now? Yeah, Uraraka was staring at you pretty hard. She looks seconds away from coming over here to rip you away from us. Deku smiled nervously. It's okay. I think Uraraka doesn't feel well today. Bakugo scoffed loudly before stomping over and grabbing Deku by the collar. You losers do whatever you're doing. I'm gonna figure out what's really going on here. Kachan? Don't Kachan me, you nerd. Something strange is going on here, and it's got something to do with you. Deku was promptly dragged off while his friends watched, but Shoji tried to put everyone at ease with his comment. Maybe we'll finally find out the truth behind their relationship? Everyone nodded at his words, but only Kirishima stayed quiet. His eyes tracked Deku and Bakugo as they disappeared out of the gym doors as well. Toga, what has gotten into you? Yeah, you keep spacing out and you're not paying attention. What's got you so out of it today? The blonde girl had been going out of her way to avoid her friends, but she was trapped now. Spinner and Mr. Compress had finally cornered her before she could slip away from their headquarters. She had missed all of the morning briefings purposely, too afraid to get discovered. She didn't want to turn and face them because she knew they would probably be able to pick up on her weird behavior. Okay, think like myself. What's the best way to convince them you're fine? Her eyes were glued to the door of their hideout as she grinned wildly. She turned to them and tried her best to be cute as she murmured, I'm bored and want to go outside. Is that fine? She blinked her eyes for extra measure and kept smiling. Please, fall for it. Please, believe my act. Her golden eyes were filled with mischief as she kept staring at them. Spinner and Mr. Compress gave one another an inquisitive look, but neither of them had a chance to say anything as Dobby strolled into the room. Come here, Toga. I've got a task for you. She gave one more cheeky smile at her companions before skipping over to Dobby, who grabbed her arm and walked away with her. Where are we going? Dobby refrained from talking. He just kept a loose grip on her before turning into one of the abandoned rooms. He pushed her in first and then closed the door. At the entrance to their hideout, Spinner and Mr. Compress simply shrugged their shoulders. She gets weirder every day. Not necessarily. She just has the unfortunate luck of being the youngest person here. Dobby didn't lock the door. He just strolled past Toga and sat down at one of the chairs while giving her an indecipherable glance. She stayed by the door but raised an eyebrow. Is there something you wanted, Dobby? The man stretched back in his seat. You tell me. You missed all of our meetings. You've been extra nice all day, and now you're trying to leave. You haven't even complained about needing blood or wanting to kill something, so the question is, what's gotten into you? Toga stood still. She tried her hardest to avoid letting them know something was wrong, but inwardly she was screaming in panic. What am I supposed to say? He knows something is up, but what do I say? What would convince him that I'm okay? She kept staring at her comrade until an idea struck her like lightning. One hand slipped underneath her skirt and pulled out the knife attached to her thigh. She ran forward and held the knife up to his throat. She twisted her face into an ugly scowl. You've been having all the fun without me. Why should I listen to you? You didn't even invite me on your last excursion. Dobby chuckled while Toga pressed the weapon against his throat. Are you still mad because I asked twice to come with me and not you? She growled. You know we're close. I don't like it when he's assigned to something without me. Dobby was still amused as he pushed her knife away with 2 fingers. Beads of blood sluggishly oozed from the cut. I take it back. You can leave. But if you're going to cause some trouble, why don't you bother those UA pests? It's been too quiet over there, and Shigaraki thinks they might be up to something. Is that good enough for you? Toga put the weapon back on her person and climbed from on top of Dobby. She kept up the act as she groused. Gladly. Don't wait for me, okay? She pushed open the doors and looked around once more before running for the entrance. As soon as she burst through the doors, she hightailed it for UA. I hope Ochako's doing better than I am. All right, Uraraka, I know you, and this isn't like you. What's going on? Ochako's hands twitched. She really craved something nice and sharp in them, but there were no weapons nearby. Her gaze traveled around her friend, but all she could see were the other UA buildings and a few benches. She looked back at Mina and studied her features closely. Okay, this is one of your best friends. Act naturally. Mina folded her arms and gave Ochako a playful glare. The others said you might have been flirting with Deku, and I thought you were over him and interested in someone else. Or have you changed your mind? Ochako's face must have given her away because Mina snickered before coming close and whispering in her ear. Your secret is still safe with me. I know you don't really like boys. So what's up? You and your girlfriend got into a fight? Ochako sat bolt upright, panic setting in that Mina might start to pick up some behavior and take a guess at who her girlfriend really was. Mina grinned. Oh, don't look so high-strung. You haven't come out to everyone, but at our last sleepover you told us you liked someone. You never gave us a name, but you did hint that it was a girl, and that you wanted to date her. Ochako deflated instantly. Oh, thank God. I didn't want this to be any more awkward than it already is. Now, if you two aren't fighting, are you going to tell me what happened with Midoriya? Ochako fiddled with her hands. I just thought he looked cute. Deku isn't used to compliments, and I thought maybe it would help him have a good day if I told him something nice. She couldn't look up at Mina. Instead, she kept playing with her fingers. Please, believe me. Please fall for it. That's the best I can come up with. Her head shot up as soon as she heard Mina's laughter. The pink-skinned girl was wiping tears away as she said, "Oh, Chaco, dear, you don't have to compliment Midoriya, and you don't have to cover up who you are. Take your time and just be true to yourself. Besides, we were all worried. We thought something was really wrong." Ochako opened her mouth to say something, but the gym doors slammed open, causing both of them to turn and watch as Momo, Asui, and Jiro came walking out. The three girls came over and hugged her. "Ribbit, are you okay?" "Mina said she'd talk to you, but we were concerned." "If it makes you feel any better, it's hard trying to figure out who you are in high school, but we all think you're amazing." "Huh? What's happening? I'm so confused." Mina joined the hug. "See, silly, I told you everything would be okay. We always have your back, no matter what." Guys, what are you talking about?" Foreheads looked down at Ochako, who still looked terribly lost. Her eyes were almost misty as she murmured, "I mean, I wasn't lying when I said I liked someone, but all of you are okay with me liking a girl?" Her friend squeezed her tight. "Of course we are." "You have no idea that you're not alone, do you?" Ochako tried shaking her head, but it was hard to move when she was being held by her friends. Her heart started feeling lighter as Jiro quietly muttered, "I'm actually bisexual." "And I'm asexual. Ribbit, ribbit." "I'm not sure what I am just yet, but I'm not fully straight," Momo said, not bothered at all by her admission. Mina squealed again while squeezing them all tightly. "I'm pansexual." Toru was the last one to speak up, though her admission wasn't nearly as shocking. "I'm heterosexual, but I think you're all awesome, and I'm lucky to be friends with such amazing women." Ochako started crying. The warmth in her heart was spreading all around her. "You guys," she cried. Momo smiled gently. "I'm so glad for you, Uraraka." "I want my girlfriend. I wonder if she has ever felt this kind of acceptance. She needs to hear this. Where are you?" As if she were being summoned, Toga stared at the gates of UA before quickly jumping over the wall and sprinting towards her girlfriend's dorm. "I don't know how to fix this, but I need to see you." After her heartfelt talk with her friends, Ochako managed to enjoy the rest of her day. She avoided Deku, who didn't seem to be uncomfortable around her anymore, and she even held her tongue about any mentions of blood. As the bell for their last class rang, she waved at her classmates and then went straight to her room. She would have loved to spend time with everyone, but she really needed to see her partner. She couldn't pinpoint why the need was so strong, but she just knew she needed to see her. While everyone else lingered at school or slowly popped up in the common room, she didn't stop until she was in front of her door. She took one deep breath before opening her door and stepping inside. She barely had the door closed before her arms were full of the person she had been longing to see all day. "Toga!" "Ochako!" The two girls were a giggling mess as they hugged and traded soft kisses. "You wouldn't believe the day I had." "I can imagine, but you first." Ochako shook her head while giving Toga a kiss on her nose. "No, you. After all, you're the cutest girl in the world." That comment had Toga blushing as golden eyes crinkled in delight. "I can't believe that line still works on me." "Are you going to start talking?" Toga smiled softly before kissing Ochako sweetly. Both girls could feel themselves getting lightheaded as the air shifted around them. Their toes curled in their shoes before they sank to the floor, wrapped up in one another's arms. On their pinkies, the little string attached to them glowed until it turned a light shade of pink before taking the shape of a tiny heart. In the morning, both girls would discover, to their joy and happiness, they were back in their own bodies. After a few heavy rounds of making out, Toga would sneak off campus with the promise of being the woman Ochako knew she could be. Ochako, however, would be stubborn and tell Toga that no matter how long it took, she'd be waiting for her. Both girls wouldn't have to wait long, though, because a little under 2 years later, the Hero Commission would come forward with a new program offering villains the chance to reform and reintegrate into society, or try their hand at being underground heroes. Much to the League's chagrin, Toga would be the first one in their ranks to take the Public Safety Commission up on their deal, but she did it on her own terms and flat out told them that she wouldn't be used as a test subject or pawn for them. Ochako would be standing out in the crowd as Toga formally announced her intention to show the world that villains were people too and deserved a second chance. As for the little boy who caused Ochako and Toga so much trouble, he learned his lesson the hard way once his parents discovered he used his quirk on a hero in training and a former villain, but that's a tale for another day. Alright, that's the end of that one. I hope you all enjoyed. I was a little unprepared for the amount of different voices I would have to do, but I think I did okay. And a couple of the lines in the story, were just dialogue without showing who was talking, so I hope I assigned them the right voices. Anyways, thank you for listening. Also, a little friendly reminder, if you like the art that you see during these videos and want to do a commission, just let me know. I am actually getting evicted from my house, so yeah, a little extra work right now would be great. Anyways, it's just a thought. Just thought I'd toss it out there. Also, if, the content stops coming, that would be why. Hopefully I'll be able to find a place soon before I actually get physically removed from where I am. And we'll still be able to make content. We'll just have to see. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.